calling and email will get about a 25% open rate. We're not even getting the message in front of their eyeballs. We're only getting in front of 25%. Texting, we're getting it in front of 99 to 100. So at least we have a shot, right? Because we've gotten in front of them.
Chad Peterman here, and you are listening to Can't Stop the Growth, a platform for leaders and teams to grow and thrive. We highlight the importance of personal development, pursuing greatness, and always chasing your potential. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. Today I am really excited. To have one of our 2025 partners with Can't Stop the Growth on the show. They are doing some really cool stuff. I met these guys it's been probably a year or two ago, and I've continued to talk and just really enjoyed talking to them about the work that they're doing on the automation side, the follow-up, just chasing down what I would think is lost revenue in most companies, and how do we turn that into book jobs and opportunities for our guys. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the show Mr. Ryan, Fenn, and Justin Judd from Chiirp. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, excited. I think looking at the screen, I think this may be the first time I've actually had two people on. So I will be extra cautious in directing those questions and different stuff like that. But I guess before we get started, why don't I mentioned you guys are partnering with the podcast and doing your own series on here, so which is going to be a lot of fun and excited for people to get to hear your guys' perspective. I guess maybe give us maybe Ryan, you can start, kind of give us a little bit of your background and starting Chiirp and what it's about, and then obviously Justin kind of spin off of that and give us a little bit of yours as well.
Yeah, so thank you for that opportunity, Chad. So my name is Ryan Fenn. I'm the founder of Chiirp. I started it about 7 years ago now. Actually, in June it'll be 7 years. And I'm not a software guy originally. I have always been pretty entrepreneurial. I was the guy that sold candy at school. In 2010, when my first son was born, I started a service business. It wasn't a home service business. I actually did windshield repair on cars, and I started that out by going door to door, and then eventually I got set up at a gas station where I would wash people's windshields as they would get gas and offer to fix their windshields on the spot. And then I got to the point where I had about 10 locations running doing that, and it was fun. It was great money. I was able to support my family, but I wanted to go bigger. And so I love, like I said, I love entrepreneurship. And I had the idea of teaching people how to start and run their own windshield repair businesses. So I sat down at my computer. I made all these PowerPoint presentations on how I was running. This was 2014, how I was running this windshield repair business. I didn't know how to do video editing, so I would just do like a screen capture, and I would just talk and do these PowerPoints. And I created a digital course on how to start your own windshield repair business. I reached out to the people that manufactured the equipment, and I said, "Hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Would you be willing to put my logo on your tools when I sell this kit?" And they said, "Absolutely." And I started selling a program for $1,500 to $3,000, depending on how much coaching you wanted. And I would generate leads on Facebook. I started setting up Facebook ads. Leads would come in. And I was getting leads for really cheap, but I was struggling to actually book these leads into interested buyers. And so I would try, I would call them when they came in. I would email them. I would do all these things. But I found the one trick that I found was that if I texted the leads really quickly, if they submitted their information and I texted the lead really quickly, I would get a much higher response rate. And they would then go on often to book a sales call with me, and I would close the deal over the phone at that point. And I made $2 million selling that course through text messaging. And so that's where I discovered kind of this power of automation, the power of speed to lead, the power of follow-up. And I was piecing together different softwares to kind of make this process happen. And that's when I got the idea for Chiirp. And so after selling about $2 million of that course, I said, hey man, if this works for me, I'll bet it'll work for everybody else. And so I got some people involved that I knew. I knew a programmer. I reached out to him and said, hey, would this interest you? And he jumped right on board. And we started developing Chiirp. And we did not develop it originally for home services. It was like anybody and everybody that sells something could use this platform. And we sold it to everybody, man. We were selling it to restaurants. We were selling it to real estate agents, MLMers, anybody that sold stuff. And it wasn't really until we struggled for about 4 years with that. And it wasn't really until we discovered the home service space, somebody bought the software and kind of started showing us the importance of integrating into ServiceTitan, House Call Pro, these other field service management platforms. And that's when the light went off, and that's when we really started to crank. So it was about 4 years of struggle to figure out our product market fit. And then once we did, we've just taken off. We've grown the first 150, 200% a year in the last 3 years, and just really been cranking along. So that's the easy version of the story. Obviously, a lot of ups and downs in the past 15 years, but that's the general timeline there. So
awesome. Justin, what about you?
So I have a software background. So I've been in software for about 15 years. Previously came from a company called Route. Route was the first software company to come up with shipping insurance for online stores. So if anyone's ever gone to an online store, you get to the checkout page and there's a little box that says protect your package from loss, damage, or theft. Route came up with that solution. We went from 0 to $1 billion in 3.5 years. And I was their second sales hire and helped kind of build out that sales team. And on my LinkedIn at the time, I had something on there that said like unicorn builder, because in software, what's considered a unicorn is when a company goes from a 0 valuation to $1 billion valuation. That's a unicorn. And Ryan was still selling Chiirp back in October of 2022. And he knew that he needed to bring somebody on to help him sell Chiirp so that he could focus on being the CEO and doing other things. And so he got onto LinkedIn, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I was the first person that showed up on your feed and you saw like unicorn builder, as cheesy as that is. And Ryan reached out to me, and it happened to be that I was actually looking for a new opportunity at the time. And so I went into Chiirp, and it was really interesting. The first day that I went in there, Ryan was doing a demo, and I saw him like close this deal in like 30 minutes. And I was like, damn, this is actually a pretty cool product, and I like this guy. And we had some conversations, and I think I was working in the office a couple of days later.
I read that book, Who Not How, if you've ever read that book, and I was going to sit down and call 100. I was going to make a list of 100 people on LinkedIn that I was going to call through and find the right guy. And Justin was the first person on my list and the first person I called, and I didn't call the other 99. So,
yeah, good problem to have. Well, no, I appreciate you guys sharing your background. I also appreciate that this podcast could go in a number of different directions. One direction we won't let it go down is the fact that Ryan was selling candy to kids at school, and Justin's building unicorns. So yeah, I'm just kidding with you. Yeah. All right. Well, Both great guys, regardless of what they do in their spare time. No. So I guess maybe a good place to start, because I want to get to what you guys will be talking about in kind of your series and kind of the partnership, and we'll get towards that at the back end. But I also think there's a ton of value that we can provide to listeners in that, like, what does Chiirp do, and what are some of the things that contractors aren't thinking about, where your guys' product could help. So maybe Justin, you take that one, as far as like, what does the product do? What's it trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go offbeat here just a little bit, and I'll get back to your question. But Ryan mentioned that, like, he's not a software guy, and it definitely comes with some challenges when you've never built a software company. You don't know everything that you're going to be faced with. You don't necessarily know all of the challenges that are going to be put in front of you. At the same time, it comes with a lot of opportunity, and because you're willing to think outside of the box, and you're willing to think in a different way than most of the people that have been building software companies their whole lives think. So one example of that is, I think one of the things that separates Chiirp apart outside of our product is our customer support. So most software companies are going to do anything and everything to get a customer and build the valuation of their company, even if that means that customer support is going to struggle. For us, from the beginning, we didn't want to be like that. We genuinely care about every single customer that pays for our services. And we wanted to give those people a white glove experience, because this kind of software is really cool and it's really powerful, but a lot of contractors are going to need help setting it up. And because we don't come from that software background, and we're just people that want to see our customers win, we've really invested a lot into making sure that we take really good care of our customers. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that differentiates Chiirp from, a lot of other companies that may be competitors.
That makes sense.
As far as the product goes, Ryan, do you want to touch on that, or do you want me to hit that?
Yeah, so to answer your question, Chad, as far as, and it's good that you preface that, Justin, with that, because a lot of the stuff we talk about will scare people off if they don't know that, because they'll think this sounds cool, but I'm not a tech guy, so I'm not going to be able to figure this out. So it's good to preface that we do that. But Chiirp, at the end of the day, the idea behind Chiirp is to find where there are leaky holes in your bucket, and we're going to try to plug those. Where are leads falling out of the funnel, and how do we recapture those leads and make sure they turn into revenue? So all the way from the beginning, when a lead is a lead, we want to make sure we're contacting them faster than anybody else possible. If you're running ads on Angie or Facebook or anywhere that you could be getting leads and they're raising their hand, we want to make sure we're contacting those leads within a minute. And we use text message automation to do that, to start a conversation. And then you can use AI to continue, or you can use your CSRs to continue the conversation, however you decide to take that. We then make sure that we follow up consistently with leads that don't book. If they raise their hand and we reach them, they don't answer the phone, they don't respond to a text, we're going to follow up consistently over a period of time using multi-channel, text message, email, ringless voicemail. If they do book, they get an estimate, but that estimate doesn't close. We want to make sure we follow up on open estimates very consistently. If they call and a call is dropped, abandoned call, missed call, whatever it is in your system, we want to make sure that we're immediately reaching out to them and capturing that and starting that conversation. So it's a matter of finding all these different places where revenue may be slipping away. And the problem that customers, that contractors have, is they can only see revenue that's happening. They can't see revenue that's not happening, because you don't see it when you don't, if somebody sees your ad and calls and you have a missed call and you don't see that Or somebody gets an estimate and then you just go, well, if they want it, they'll call me back. I'll focus on the ones that are closing now. You don't see what you don't see, and then you miss all these opportunities. We have people come on all the time where they're doing millions, tens of millions of dollars, thinking that, hey, we've got this, dialed in. And we turn on one campaign, like an abandoned call campaign, and they realize, shoot, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars every month that we're missing that we didn't even know was there. So that's generally the goal of Chiirp, is to help you maximize your marketing dollars. You're going to spend money on marketing. We want to make sure you're getting the most out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a drum that I've been beating for probably the last 8 months. And the reason that I'm beating it is because we found a lot of these areas where you got holes in the bucket, right? It's, are we paying attention to the call center? Are we paying attention to follow up? Are we chasing down abandoned calls? Are we following up on work that we didn't sell? Or, all of these things that I think so many contracting businesses don't focus on because that's not their strong suit. They were probably someone from the field or focused on operations and sell. But at the end of the day, if you're letting all of that slip through your bucket, it's not a recipe for success. And I think your tool is one that is basically an internal ops kind of tool that can help gain efficiency, which I think is imperative for contractors. If I'm a contractor, let's just use like a little case study here. I'm a contractor. I don't necessarily have a call center. I've got, Nancy and Judith who pick up the phone, and that's all I got. So wouldn't really call them a call center. It's just two ladies that pick up the phone. What would be your pitch to a contractor who, maybe they're doing a couple of million a year in sales? Like, where can they, because I feel like sometimes these automation tools and different stuff like that get breezed over by smaller contractors. You're like, I don't need that. Like, I'm not, I'm doing everything that I can. Like, what have you guys seen in your experience that they can still benefit from tools like these?
Well, first off, we love Nancy and Judith. That's
love
like,
them. They're great people.
Yeah, we love Nancy and Judith. They're excellent CSRs. They're not killer salespeople. They're not trained assassins. They're Nancy and Judith. They'll bring you cookies, and they'll make sure the office is comfortable and nice, and they'll they're great people. But we want to turn Nancy and Judith into ninjas. We want to turn them into assassins without you having to go out and find a killer sales guy. But Nancy and Judith aren't going to sit there and follow up 15 times with an estimate. They're just not going to do it. They don't have the time to do it, and they don't have the drive or the motivation that maybe a killer sales guy would have. And so when we put Chiirp in the hands of Nancy and Judith, they all of a sudden become superhumans, because now we're following up with hundreds of leads, and when those leads do respond, that's when Nancy and Judith can do what they're good at, which is book the job, right? But to get to that opportunity, we got to make sure that automation is taking place. And so now you may have Nancy and Judith sitting there, and you say, Nancy, Judith, I want you to take all these open estimates. I want you to call through all these open estimates and try to get these jobs, right? And they'll sit there and call through and whatever, but it's going to cost you a bunch of money just because it's taking up all this time. They're busy doing other things. Or we can say, hey, we're going to follow up with 100 open estimates today. And for everyone that responds, take it over and get them booked. And now, instead of them sitting and calling 100 people, we took 30 seconds to contact 100 people. And now Nancy and Judith booked 20 jobs in the last hour instead of doing that over 3 or 4 days, right? And so the whole purpose is not to get rid of Nancy and Judith. Again, we love Nancy and Judith. It's to enhance. I call that the perfect blend between actual human interaction and automation. We're not trying to take away jobs. We're trying to take your biggest asset, which is your humans, and get them doing things that they're good at, human things, and let automation do the automation. Let the robots do their job. Let Nancy and Judith do their job.
Yeah, I think it's such a great point. I've been asked so many times with all the AI automation, call center, Chiirp, different things like that. Like, do we see a day when there'll be no one in the office? And I'm like, I don't see that day. And I see it just like you do. It's like, how do we enhance their capabilities and or free them up to do all of the things that are like 8, 9, and 10 on their to-do list that they never get to because they're too busy with the top things. Whereas if we put in tools like these, can they all of a sudden, as you put it, become superhuman? And all of a sudden they're knocking out all of these things, and you may not have to scale those people quite as fast as you normally would with tools like this.
100%. And I beat that drum for sure, where people are going, oh, AI is replacing jobs. And I say, you need to shift your mindset and say, look, your strongest asset, I love human beings, and we have super powerful brains that can do really creative, powerful things. But if we reduce that person to just repeated tasks that can be done by automation, then we're not taking advantage of our most powerful asset, which is the human brain. And so when we take them off of those minimal tasks, they start doing more elevated things. They become happier in their position because they're being what they're here for. Me as a person who believes in God, I believe we're here to create and build and do things, and taking them off of these boring, redundant tasks that Chiirp can do allows them to be happier in their position doing things that you need humans to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, for you, so like if I'm like, okay, I think this could work, like how seamless is this? Is this like I got to be in another software? I got to do this. I got to do that. I got ServiceTitan, or name your CRM software, dispatch software that you've got. Like, what does that look like from an integration standpoint? Like, how easy is, like, it sounds like, oh shoot, automation, AI. This sounds kind of crazy. Like, what does that look like for the contractor?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that's kind of why I went off beat a little bit and talked to you about like why support was important to us. But so when Ryan was talking in the beginning, we used to sell it to anybody and everybody. But then, one day we had a home service guy that was using Chiirp, and he was like, dude, this is a really cool tool. But if you integrated with the different field service management softwares, that's where it would become really powerful, because then the contractor isn't having to change what they're doing in their system. And so that's when Chiirp integrated with FSMs like ServiceTitan, House Call Pro, Jobber, Field Edge. But it's seamless, because basically all we're doing is we integrate with your system. And basically we say, okay, when you do this in your system, Chiirp triggers the follow-up. So in ServiceTitan, for example, when they create an open estimate, ServiceTitan pushes that data to Chiirp, and Chiirp follows up. When they have an abandoned call in ServiceTitan, Chiirp automatically sends out the text message. So it's very seamless. That being said, I always recommend that contractors do it one thing at a time. So a tool like Chiirp, there's a ton that you can do with it, but where we see the most success is when a contractor looks at their business and they say, okay, this is the bucket that we want to fill, or this is the gap that we want to fill. Let's implement that one campaign. Let's figure it out, make sure that the team's on the same page and know exactly how it's working. And once we've figured out that one strategy and we're bringing in some revenue, let's move to the next strategy, as opposed to trying to implement, 10 or 15 things at once.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because like if you just do one, well, you're already a little bit better than you were yesterday. You don't have to do it all and then it, falls apart and all that stuff. Like, just get a little bit better over time. You're not going to go backward. Communicating with your customers is a good thing.
Yeah. I'll give you a real world example. So we work with one of the largest, PE groups in the country, and all 28 of their brands use Chiirp. And it was really interesting when they came on board, they only used Chiirp for one thing, one campaign, estimate follow-up, still to this day. And the reason is because they went into their ServiceTitan and they realized how much money they had sitting in open estimates, because they've paid money to get the leads. They've paid money to go out to the home and give the estimate. And, unfortunately, they're not always going to close right then and there in the home. And they just weren't following up. And so to them, it was like, man, if we could figure out this one campaign and we could increase conversion on open estimates by 10 to 15%, we would way more than pay for our monthly Chiirp cost. And it's been really cool to watch, because even though they're running one campaign through Chiirp, they're making a ton of money because their entire company is bought in, and their CSRs know exactly what's going on. They know that right when a text message comes in, it's crucial for them to take over the conversation immediately, because we see a huge increase in conversion the quicker that the CSR is taking over the conversation once the text message comes in.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Ryan, can you speak to, so we've been talking a lot about text messaging, but I think it's important to kind of highlight, I think everybody understands, yeah, that's how I communicate. Like I always tell people, like, if you want to get a hold of me, just text me. Because I'm looking at that more than I'm like trying to take a phone call and different stuff like that. Like, do you have any data around like how much people are using, like, why is text messaging so effective? I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started this, so I don't want to I try to explain this. We don't lump ourselves into a texting platform. We're an automation platform, and texting just happens to be currently the number one way to communicate with people. And so that's what we focus on. If something in the future takes over texting as the primary, like, ideal way to communicate, we'll then automate that. But right now it's texting, right? But texting is pretty obvious. You can say it's pretty obvious. 98 to 99% read rate on text messages is what we see, generally speaking. So we know that when we send a text message, if it gets to their phone, they're gonna read it almost 100% of the time. An email, here's the problem. There's 3 ways you can communicate, right? You can call, you can text, you can email. There's other ways. You could Facebook message, you could send a letter, but those are the 3 main, right? Email, text, call. Calling and email will get about a 25% open rate. So now I'm only, so if I look at my phone and I see a call that I don't recognize, I'm likely not going to answer it by about 75%, right? 25% of people will, 75% won't. Email, if you're really good at email, you might get a 40% open rate, but most of the time it's somewhere between 10 and 30%. So now we're not even getting the message in front of their eyeballs. We're only getting in front of 25%. Texting, we're getting it in front of 99 to 100. So at least we have a shot, right? Because we've gotten in front of them. And now we have 100 people to work with versus 25, where we can get the email into their inbox within that short amount of time. We can get it to them fast, but there's no way they're checking it that quickly. So texting's king. Whenever anybody, and it's becoming less and less over the last 5. I've been doing this for 7 years. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've heard it less and less. But people would start to say, "Nah, most of my customers are older. They don't like texting or this or that." That's 100% not the case anymore. Across the board, texting has a higher open rate and a higher, like, that's what people would prefer you do. In fact, some people won't even communicate with you if you don't offer texting. Because there are a lot of these younger kids that are coming up that are becoming homeowners. And if anybody knows anything in this world right now, younger generations have a lot more social anxiety than the older generations. And they aren't good at talking on the phone. Like they didn't have to call, their friends when they were younger, like we did. We, if you remember, Chad, we had to call, if we want to call a girl, the dad would answer the phone. And we had to,
I remember in high school when we used to make fun of, like, if a guy texted you, you're like, dude, what's going on
it's
here?
weird.
Like,
Yeah,
all right,
weird.
like, why are you doing that, man? Well, come on, man, back off the text messaging. Come on,
page me, bro.
Yeah, come on.
So we had to overcome a lot of social anxiety when we were young, and we're used to picking up the phone and getting on a call. But a lot of these younger kids that are now homeowners are not comfortable getting on the phone, and so it's required as a business owner that you communicate through text messaging if you want to connect with that demographic, and older people now too. It's to a point now where it's like, hey, like I can't even hear like well on the phone texting. They have you've seen them with the text where the font is all big on their phone.
Yeah, my parents got it.
Yep, 100%. So across the board, old to young, 80 to 90% plus prefer or almost demand that your business text.
Yeah, the other part of it, man, is people want things easy these days.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
people want an easy way to get a service. So and texting is super easy for people to do. A lot of people would rather just send a text message back instead of even talk on the phone. One of the campaigns a lot of companies run through us is an abandoned call campaign. So right when they have an abandoned call, Chiirp sends out a text message. Well, people put a booking link in that text message. So, hey, sorry we missed your call. You can call us or text us back at this number, or if you're ready to schedule, click here, and they'll put a booking link in that text message. We see that over 50% of people schedule directly through that link without even texting or calling back. So people want an easy way to do things these days, and text messaging is a powerful tool to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is just to kind of piggyback on that example, like, one of the things in the HVAC world especially was, oh, well, we got to start dialing out to get our maintenances scheduled. We haven't called a single customer in probably 3 years. We just send out text messages. The great thing about the texting and what we've done that I think could help listeners too is, your service guys, right tech, right call. This is a money call. We want to send our best guy. But like with maintenance, if it's under 10 years old, it's pretty much the same call. And so what we've been able to do is really group our maintenance customers and who we text into zip codes. So we can keep our maintenance staff, or at least a couple of them, in the same damn neighborhood all day long by just simply texting those customers, showing availability on certain days so that we can keep them there, because the more efficient they are on the maintenance side of things, the better off we are. But to your point, we just send out a link and then we see, we just sent it out to 100 customers and 60 just booked their maintenance. Well, that was a hell of a lot more efficient than, Nancy or Judith picking up the phone and dialing 100 numbers.
Exactly.
Like that could take damn near all day.
Yep.
Not to mention she's probably only going to get about 10 people to answer the damn phone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then those that do of those, so you say you send out 160 book, whatever. There are some that will call in, and that's Nancy and Judith. There they are. They're there to fill that rest of that. So now 100%. We've gotten 60, 70, 80 bookings versus their 10. So
yeah. So I think we've given listeners a couple of different things. Abandoned calls, that's huge. I know we run that campaign. I think actually, Justin, we were on the To The Point podcast when I think our good friend Aaron brought that up, and I was like, I immediately ran down. I was like, start this campaign right now. But
we still haven't got that check from you for telling you about that, though, Chad. I was wondering.
Send it on over. Yeah, it's in the mail. It's UPS just laid off a bunch of people, so it may be in one of their boxes. I'm not sure.
Maybe so, yeah. Okay. I trust you. No worries.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we've got that. We've got the follow-up, right? Open estimate, easy, sends off a message, keeps that customer active, delivering what I call, warm leads to your inside sales rep or your CSR, whoever's following up on that. What are some ideas of other campaigns that, you've seen successful or contractors are using that people may not be thinking about?
There's a really cool one, Chad, and you'll probably get this. Like when a company is smaller.
Wait, let's get a contract signed before you give this one up to Chad.
Yeah.
We made that mistake before with the abandoned
I'm serious too. Like Ryan and I are big on mindset, Chad. I think you know that. We are big on authenticity. And automation allows you to scale authenticity. So when you're a smaller company, one of the reasons customers like to work with you is because the customer knows the owner. They have that relationship. They know who their guy is. And it's easier to keep that down home feel when you're smaller. As a company scales, it's just not realistic for an owner to keep kind of that personal relationship with all of their customers. And so through automation, you can actually do some really cool things to be able to connect with your customers and let them know that you care about them. So one of the things companies are doing through Chiirp right now, it's called the owner handshake. So when a job is scheduled in ServiceTitan, they'll trigger a text message that has a link to a video of the owners, just thanking that person for booking a job with them and letting them know that how much they appreciate them and that they're confident that technician's going to give them a 5-star experience. And we're getting some really good feedback from them because that owner can create that video one time and it's getting sent out over and over and over again. And it's just a different experience for the customers that are receiving that text and watching that video.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I would say one thing that it's very similar in the same vein. One thing we ran into problems with is, if your membership plan includes plumbing and electrical, it may be a safety check on electrical or just a whole home plumbing inspection. HVAC, pretty straightforward. All right, you're going to work on the furnace, you're going to work on the air conditioner. Plumbing, we would run into customers who scheduled these things because we called them and they're like, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. And then we get into their house and they'd be like, hold on a second, you're going to be toting around my house, looking at my bathrooms and my water heat. Like, I don't even understand this. Like, I've never had this. Same thing with electrical. Like, well, what are you going to do? Like, what is this thing? And so where we've seen some success is that very similar of like the owner just explaining what the hell's going to happen on the call. Hey,
cool.
100%.
One of our great technicians is going to show up. Here's what's going to happen on this inspection. Here's the things that he's looking for that hopefully don't cause you problems in the future. All of these things. It's like, is there a world where, like, especially with, Ryan, you mentioned it, new homeowners, they don't know what in the hell's going on. Like, I just know something's not working. Come fix it. Yep. Like, is there opportunities to kind of plant that seed and kind of give that customer a little, set the tech up for success? Like, oh, I know why you're here. I watched that video. Like, so I guess you're going to be going around and checking for leaks and making sure my pipes look good and, all of that stuff so that, it really takes the onus off the technician to hopefully, explain it really well. And they've already kind of had some time to let that sink in.
It goes back to the turning humans into superhumans, right? We already did that for Nancy and Judith. Let's do it for the tech as well. So when the tech shows up, he's not having to explain all this stuff. We've already done it for him. And now he can go straight to work showing all the stuff. And then he's in a better position to close the deal. It's the same for our financing pre-approval. We're sending out within that same message. By the way, if you feel like you may need to finance this, we have some great programs. Click here to get pre-approved. And now when the technician's there, you're already pre-approved. He's not even having to bring that up. So there's lots of different ways that we can just enhance our human beings' efforts and just make them so much better what they're doing. At the end
Chad,
of the job.
Did you just write that down?
What'd you say?
You just write down that
strategy. Wrote it down,
right
bro. He's
there?
gonna run it. Yep. That's
No,
another
dude,
one
come on.
Hey, a good friend of ours, Mr. Mello, once told me when I asked him, why in the hell do you do this podcast all the time? And he said, well, I get to ask all the questions that I am curious about asking of the guests. So I said, oh, I like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't leave one of these things without a page of notes or just things to think about, and appreciate you guys, being so open and sharing, and hey, these are ideas that can hopefully help. And obviously with Chiirp, make them automated, make them scalable. To where like, ooh, I used to love doing that, but now I can't because we have double the jobs or whatever it is. Like, to me, this makes it super scalable.
I heard I like that you're like that, by the way. I heard a really interesting quote on a podcast the other day, and I'm going to botch the quote a little bit, but basically it said the brokest people in the room, and that doesn't mean, necessarily just financially, but a broken mindset, are always the know-it-alls, and the richest people in the room are always willing to learn from anybody and everybody, including the broke person. It's really interesting when you actually think about that. I'm going to give you one more strategy here, and this is something that you could probably implement in your business if you're not already. Aaron Gaynor does this.
He's gonna
So we can. It's really cool. So we can automatically pull over any ServiceTitan report and pull it on a recurring basis. So it's not like you're doing any import. So he has it set up to where he's pulling over a report every day of anyone that just signed up for a membership, and they do a new member welcome text, and they just thank that person for signing up for the membership, and then they've got a link to the membership page of their website so that those people can go and see the value that they're getting in the membership program.
I think if there's one thing that everybody's fighting, it's membership cancellations. It's, how do you signed up for a membership today? Why did you sign up? And then also, how am I going to provide value to you between now and the next time that I come out to your house?
Think about also the branding power that this has. Maybe you spent a bunch of money with Dan Antonelli to get a new brand, and you have this really great, new, colorful, awesome, professionally designed brand, but during the process of the customer journey, they're only seeing it on the truck or on the invoice. Imagine at every step when these texts are going out and these videos are happening, that brand is being reinforced along the way. When you do the owner handshake, he's standing by a van and saying, "Hey, thanks so much." All this is it's setting the expectation for a 5-star review. And then it's also setting them up to remember. I mean, how far do we have to drill down in somebody's brain before they remember who their HVAC guy is, right? It's like, dude, we've come to your house 10 times. You don't remember who we are? It's like, I don't know. And so the more chances we can get to drill our brand into their brain, the better chance we have of them becoming a lifelong customer.
Yeah. I mean, I think about like cross-selling and different things like that. You're 100% right. We started plumbing, and I think we're still on year like 4 or 5 after we started it, where customers are still like, I didn't know you did that. I'm like, it's written on the side of the van, dude. We've been out here a couple times. Pay attention. Come on.
They're like, I thought about plumbing 10 years ago once. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. Well, let's pivot a little bit, because I want to definitely give listeners like kind of a sneak peek into like what you guys will be kind of doing on kind of your your kind of series. So I guess maybe tell me a little bit about like what's the focus going to be? Is it going to be all kind of AI chirp? Is it going to be something different? Like what can listeners expect when they see some of your guys' episodes drop?
I think we're talking about win your mind, win your market here.
Yeah.
And like Ryan and I wanted the opportunity to let people get to know us as human beings, and not a software company. We wanted people to get to know us, and we are big on mindset. So the podcast is called Win Your Mind, Win Your Market. Chad, I had you on. That was awesome. Ryan wasn't able to be there that day, but really we're just trying to dive in to how business owners in the trades are using their mindset to win in business and life, because we believe that so often we've got challenges and struggles and issues that come up, whether it be in business or whether it be in life, and we look outside of ourselves to solve those things. When in reality, if we were to take a look at ourselves and go to work on ourselves, a lot of those challenges would naturally resolve themselves. So we're trying to give back a little bit with something that we're super passionate about, and that is mindset.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a top-down approach. And Justin and I talk about this a lot, because I could teach you a line a script to use to sell something, but if your mindset is off, if your heart is off, if you're having major internal struggles, I don't care how powerful the script is, you're never going to be able to sell anything. And I can give you the tactics and strategies that we use in Chiirp, but if your mindset is wrong, it's going to be hard to scale those things. And so if we can get you thinking in the right way to start approaching these things, then the idea is we can say, hey, do the abandoned call follow-up. Great, you're making more money. I want you coming up with the abandoned call ideas, right? I want you thinking in that direction so that you're coming up with campaigns, because I love the campaigns that we find are from people who are out in the field making money, doing and going, you know what, if we did this, this would do this, and this would do this. When we first started with home services, we didn't know what was going to work. It was the home service guys that were out in the field making it happen that would discover these things. And so when you're in that creative mindset, Chiirp is much more powerful for you because you're not just relying on, hey, what's Tommy Mello doing? I'll just copy him. Or what's Chad Peterman doing? I'll just copy him. It's like, no, I want to get the ideas and inspiration and then create what I do in my own business. So,
yeah, that's so powerful. And I think something that can easily be overlooked, right? It's like, well, they run a successful business, so I just need to do what they do operationally. When I think that, if I were to look back on my journey, it's been a lot of personal development of, the company is only going to go as far as the leader is willing to push themselves to learn and grow. If you are stuck in a mindset to where I know it all, I'm good where I'm at, all of these things, like that's going to rub off on all the people that you work with. And it's also going to rub off on the results of your business. Are you willing to grow? And I think that, listeners can, learn a lot from kind of how you guys view that. And as well as, if you're not in the right mindset, my product, someone else's, some other thing, it's never going to work. I mean, it's not going to work. Like you can sign up all damn day long. And it's just not going to perform. And you're going to be that guy who's like, oh, that thing's a piece of crap. It never worked. I'm sure you guys have never heard that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, that's weird because I've got a whole bunch of other customers that seems odd. So, well, awesome stuff. As we kind of wrap up here, guys, I think excited to have you on as a partner. I think we're going to do some really cool things and hopefully help out a lot of people. I think that's the biggest thing of, how can we get these tools in front of people and then, partner them with great companies like yourself that can hopefully take them to the next level. And I always say, I think if you're looking to grow 15 or 20%, my guess is you don't need to spend another dime in marketing. You just need to get 100%. Better internally.
It's sitting there.
Because the work is there. So
it's all there.
I guess, yeah, absolutely. So as we end, like, what's the best way? Like if someone's listening and they're like, I think I'm ready to like partner with these guys and like get things moving. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you guys?
So we work with you closely. So we want to start things off with a demo. We want to get in. And this is more of a consultative approach. So look at what systems you're using and where Chiirp could best be implemented right now to get some quick wins in your business. Go after that low-hanging fruit. And so you go to Chiirp and book a demo. So CHIIRP.com, book a demo. Also there, we have a free ebook you could download on the website. If you wanted to grab that free ebook, that's got 11 of our top strategies sitting there ready to consume and understand so that you can get an idea. And then we'll get on this demo. If this is a good fit, we'll get you started. And then you're going to work directly with a CSM. Now you're going to onboard her in a CSM. Now this CSM is your dedicated CSM. So you're not calling India or something to try to get support. You have a dedicated CSM that knows you and is incentivized to help you be successful with Chiirp. And then he or she's going to help you set up your initial campaigns, give you advice on how to get started on different things. And then throughout the year, we'll add various things along the journey and help you continue to implement different strategies. So go to Chiirp, book your demo, download the ebook, and we'll work with you very closely. And that's again, a thing we're very passionate about. We don't ever want anybody to feel like Chiirp said, oh, here's your software, good luck. it's much more than that. So
awesome stuff, guys.
I always like to give out my info also, just in case if anyone does have some specific questions or they want a direct contact, they can call me personally. My cell phone number is 385-285-9496. My email's justin@chiirp.com. Chiirp has 2 eyes. So I'm also happy to talk with anyone that has any questions or whatever it is.
Love it. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you spending a little bit of time on here. Obviously, appreciate the partnership. It's going to be a fun year. And listeners, I think you need to do yourself a favor and really start to analyze those internal operations once you get your mindset right about, hey, something can always improve. Things can get better. We can support our teams just a little bit better. So again, thanks, guys, and look forward to working with you this year.
Thank you, Chad.
Looking forward to it, man.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to connect with me personally, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel and consider joining the CSTG Arena. As always, keep growing out there.